Hey guys, welcome back to Matthews Ballistics. Today we are talking about my cheapest and most accurate gun, which is a rifle, but it is the gun that I've spent the least amount of money on as far as the gun goes, the optic goes, um, and the ammunition goes for the most part. So this is a gun I've had for a really long time. It's one of my first firearms. Purchased it from a family member, but this is it. This is a single shot New England Firearms handy rifle, and it is chambered in 223 or 223 Ram, or basically the American version, non-NATO compliant version of the 5.56. So yes, I've shot 5.56 out of this, and shoots fine. I mean, at most we're talking like maybe 1,000 pounds of difference in chamber pressure, so not a whole lot different there. Maybe maybe like 50 or 60 or 100 feet per second difference, based on bullet weight and everything. But it's a break action rifle, and I've had this gun for a really long time. It's honestly one of my favorite rifles to shoot, and I've achieved some really, really like spectacular accuracy with it, more than any other gun I've ever shot. So, and what I'm talking about is this cheap little firearm. These were like, I don't know, 200 or 250 or $300 new. I'm not sure, depending on where they were bought and sold at. I bought this off a family member, and I paid, I believe, $150 for the rifle. Um, and then I had a scope on it that was given to me for free. So basically, I had a scope and a rifle for 150 bucks. And it shot, and I'm not joking, it shot quarter MOA groups. We're talking 0.25 inch groups at 100 yards. And it still holds that consistently. Recently, though, like this week, got a new scope for it, and it's not an expensive scope. It's a cheap Simmons 8 point. It's a 6 to 18 power scope. It's got a 50 millimeter objective lens. I haven't zeroed it yet, but I'm going to. But in the past, I had a also very cheap scope by a company that's no longer in business. Had an Optronics, or yeah, I believe that's what it's called, Optronics, or Optronics scope, and it was a Buckridge Horizon, and it was, I believe, 8 to 32 power, and had a 44 millimeter objective lens. So actually a very powerful scope. But as far as quality goes, not a real high quality scope, not super clear or anything like that. But the scope complemented the rifle very well, and that's what I used on it for years. Hunting wise, target shooting wise, whatever, I used that scope on this rifle, and it did a really great job. Um, I think when I moved that scope to my 6.5 Creedmoor, because I needed the extra, zoom capabilities to really see my targets out at 300 yards or more. The scope at that point, I believe, was pretty wore out. That scope has had many, many thousands of rounds shot underneath it, mounted on several different rifles of several different calibers, and I mean, for a really inexpensive scope, we're talking like a $250 scope. It held up and took a lot of abuse, and it held a really, really good zero. But it finally, I think, is just wore out, and it's done, and And it got to the point on the 6.5 Creedmoor that I could group with it. At least it was still grouping, but those groups were not any tighter than, say, a 3 MOA. It was shooting a 3-inch group at 100 yards, which, if you're just deer hunting with it, perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but you can't really showcase and like appreciate the accuracy of a 6.5 Creedmoor if your scope is only capable of holding, a 3-inch MOA group, or a 3 MOA group. So with that being said, picked up this little scope, and it's again another cheap scope. I don't plan on doing anything crazy with this firearm. Being break action, I can't really put it in a chassis or anything. There's not a whole lot I can do with it to make it more accurate. So uh, I went back to the wood foregrip or forend, and then the wooden stock, and it's still just as accurate as it was with the synthetic forend and synthetic stock. I've got this sling on there. This Simmons 6 to 18 power scope. I picked up. It was on sale for like 60% off or something. It was $110 retail scope, and I paid $49.99 for it. So again, I'm pretty excited about it. We're gonna go zero it again, and so this little bit of video is just based on my cheapest and most accurate firearm that I've ever owned. This thing with military ball ammo will shoot sub MOA. It'll shoot about a 3/4 inch group or 0.8 inch group at 100 yards. And the ammunition that it really loves the most is this right here, which some of y'all may know what this is, and some of y'all may not. But this is Winchester Ballistic Silver Tip ammo, and these are 45 grain bullets. And I believe the muzzle velocity on the box reads 3250 or something like that. So they're pretty hot, they're pretty quick, but this rifle has a 1 in 10 twist, so it doesn't like the heavier 223 rounds, like your 62s and your 70 grain rounds. It keyholes them. I mean, at 50 yards, they fly into the target sideways. I mean, I was in like a dire situation, that's all I had, and I had to shoot, no problem. I'm not worried about it. If it goes in sideways, it's just going to leave a nasty wound cavity. But as far as pinpoint accuracy goes, the 45 and 55 grain bullets have proved to be the best out of this rifle. So I have actually some old Nosler ballistic silver tips, which I believe is what Winchester used when they made these. But no, the only thing is the ones that I have are 55 grain. They're not the 45 grain ones. So I've actually only tested just a few of those, just like a handful of them, and they tested great. But I've also got some Berger match bullets that are 52 grains that I plan on load for this, and I'm actually going to work on that here in just a little bit, and I'm going to test that in maybe a couple weeks or so. But I'm just going to load the rounds. More or less, I just wanted to let y'all know that you can have an extremely accurate gun without spending a lot of money on it. I don't know, maybe I have a fluke gun though. Like maybe the reason why this shoots quarter MOA shots, or quarter MOA groups at 100 yards is just because the barrel that's in this gun, it just may be a freak barrel that was perfectly drilled in a very inexpensive gun. I don't know. But it is super accurate, and I have no complaints about it. All the deer that I've ever killed have been killed with this rifle. None of my other guns I've ever actually killed anything with. Just this rifle. It's my hunting rifle, and it's my favorite target shooting rifle. I've sent several thousand rounds through it downrange, and it just keeps on being incredibly accurate, and I don't think I will ever get rid of it because of that reason. So I was just gonna let talk about that with y'all a little bit, because I got several guns like this whole setup with this scope and this rifle and the sling. I've got under $300 in, under $300, and it will shoot quarter M away. Um, and just to compare that, like I own several guns that are, over $1,000, several rifles that are over $1,000 a piece. Some of them nearing $2,000 a piece, and one of them, my 50 cal, is over $2,000, but that's a little different scenario. That's just a whole different thing. But yeah, quarter MOA gun, under $300, just simply incredible. I could not. There's not one thing about this gun that I could complain about. Not one thing that I could ever complain about. I've owned it for at least 10 years, maybe longer than that. I want to say I probably actually bought this rifle off a family member when I was about 18 or 19. And I know you're not supposed to buy guns, especially rifles, until you're 21. You can buy a shotgun, not a rifle or handgun. I don't know. But anyways, I bought this little rifle, and it's got this little 16-inch bull barrel, and it's stupid accurate, just incredibly accurate rifle, and I love it to death. And I'm going to load some more rounds for it because I don't shoot it enough anymore. I really don't. I shoot this rifle maybe once or twice a year, maybe 5-10 rounds out of it, and make sure it's still on, and that's it. But I love target shooting with it. I used to spend hours at the gun range just sending rounds downrange of this. I would go to the gun range and shoot 200 rounds out of a single shot rifle for fun, just to see how tight I could get my groups. And maybe that's why it was so accurate, is because I gotten used to how the rifle shot, because I would spend 4 or 5 hours every few weeks just round after round after round, just focusing on my breathing, focusing on the way I pull the trigger, focusing on everything, and just making sure that everything was just absolutely perfect coming out of this gun. So yeah, maybe that was it. Maybe that's the reason why it's so accurate in my hands, is because I spent so much time behind this rifle, this particular rifle, and not, a different rifle or somebody else's rifle. But I love this gun, and I don't plan on ever getting rid of it. It's my favorite firearm. Out of everything that I've owned, I've shot this one the most, and it has shot the most accurate of everything I've owned. As far as everything that has an optic on it. Now, I have a couple other rifles that don't have optics, and they're open sights, and they are too very, very accurate, which they would probably be more accurate if I had put an optic on. But anyways, I just want to talk about this little rifle for a little bit and see what y'all think about it. It's pretty sweet, I'm telling you. It's sweet. And I'm going to be loading some match rounds for it, and we'll take it out to the range and shoot it some more, because I don't shoot it enough.